You actually posted a Twitter thread recently mentioning that you were vetting 500 different shows for potential sponsorships this year. And so I was wondering if you could talk about the role that metrics plays in that decision-making process and how shows that don't have super strong numbers can advocate for themselves and still be attractive to brands.
Yeah, that 500 is probably just that week. I feel like I'm betting hundreds every week and probably go through a few thousand in a year, at least maybe up to 10. However, as much as I love pretty media kits, as much as I love all the glitz and glam that comes in from podcasters, it doesn't matter to me that much when I'm looking at your
Fighting
show.
words. Let's go.
Here are the things that I ultimately look for. Above all, it's your track history of advertiser success. I'm going to use tools like Podscribe or Magellan or others or the software to check, do you have sponsors on your show? If so, have they been on your show for a long time? Have they been on for a short time? Does it look like they stick around? That's a good indicator to me to say that this brand is finding success on your podcast. Maybe a brand that I have that's similar in what they're looking for. Maybe they're looking to work with a podcast that has an audience of moms in their 30s. Great. This brand I know has that audience. My brand has that audience. I'm probably going to reach out about doing that sponsorship because they have a good track history there. Secondarily, that's where I look at how many downloads per episode do you get? The age, gender, location of your listeners. Maybe I'll look at your psychographics. Is your audience particularly moms in the alternative health category? They're really all about certain ways of doing motherhood. Maybe that's a really good audience to tap into. And lastly, then it comes down to rates and packages. And that's the fundamental baseline that's a result of those other things. So for example, if you have a great advertiser history, you have exactly the demographics I'm looking for my brand, you can probably justify a higher rate to me and I'll probably still bite. Ultimately though, prove it out, get a good advertiser track history and brands will come to you. That's the easiest thing that I look at. And it's the first thing that I see on a bad podcast that has no good advertising success. They have one ad this month, then 3 months later, they have another ad and they just can't seem to retain any podcast advertiser. That's not a brand I want to touch with a 9-foot or podcast I want to touch with a 9-foot pole.
All right. So Danielle, I definitely want to get your thoughts on Adam's argument because at least for me, it sounded like you were saying, like, it's like when you look at a job posting and it's like, you're fresh out of college and it's like 4 years experience, like every job. It's like, how do you get the advertiser track record if you're just starting out? That's my question. Cause it's like hard. Like, it's like I feel like that methodology maybe benefits like people who have been doing it a long time. Maybe that's just the point. I don't know. Danielle, what are your thoughts on Adam's argument?
I thought that was a great argument, but at the end of the day, I think it depends on how you approach sponsorships. Because like for me, I think of it as a bespoke customization. They're commissioning me and partnering with me to create this piece of content that they can actually go and put on their site, that they can actually go and use and showcase. So it's much more of a creative investment, even though I make it as easy as possible. But for me, I think it just depends on the approach. That custom, bespoke, boutique hotel approach is like what I go for versus kind of like this more bigger box strategy.